What's up, guys? So this is a long chapter, but we're gonna read chapter 1 of Always Curious. Chapter 1, Always Curious. And this is Thomas Alva Edison. This is a long chapter, so don't be upset if it's too long. Chapter 1, Always Curious. Thomas Alva Edison was born on February 11th, 1847, on a cold, snowy night in Milan, Ohio. His parents, Nancy and Samuel, named him Thomas after his great uncle, and Alva after Captain Alva Bradley, a good friend of his father. The family didn't call him Tom or Tommy. They called him Al. Little Al wanted to find out everything about the world around him. He went about like a scientist. Doing an experiment. He didn't just ask questions. He liked to find out the answers himself. Once Al broke open a bumblebee's nest to see what's inside. Another time he watched birds eat worms and fly off. So Al made a mixture of water and mashed worms. Then he gave it to a neighbor girl to drink. He wanted to see if eating worms would make her fly, but it just made her sick. And Al got a licking with a birch branch. Nothing stopped Al, not bees, not a licking, not even falling into a grain storage bin. He was walking around the rim of the bin when he fell in. Luckily, someone pulled him out by the legs just before he was buried under the wheat. After Al's father owned a small grain and timbers mill in Milan, boats like Captain Alva Bradley's carried timber down from Canada across Lake Erie, down the Huron River, and not the Milan Canal. There it was cut into logs and planks at mills like Mr. Edison's. Trucks and cars had not yet been invented, and trains didn't come to Milan. But one day, a railroad line was built. Trains started chugging into town, and the canal wasn't so important anymore. The railroads were faster and easier to use for carrying things around the country. So when Al was 7, the family moved to a new home in Port Huron, Michigan, more than 100 miles north of Milan. They lived in a big house on the St. Clair River. Al's father did lots of things to earn a living. He worked as a carpenter. He ran a grocery store. He had a vegetable garden. He tried farming. He even built a 100-foot tower overlooking the river. For 25 cents, anyone could climb up and watch the boats go by. The Edisons had only been there a short time when Al caught scarlet fever. What's scarlet fever, Bob?
It's part of strep throat.
All right. It was a serious illness back then when the medicines used today. He ran a high fever. A red rash broke out on his skin. Al got better, but he realized that he couldn't hear as well as he used to, probably because of the scarlet fever. In school, the teacher complained that Al didn't pay attention. He would drift off. Maybe he was bored, or maybe he just couldn't hear anything. One day, 8-year-old Al had heard his teacher telling someone that he was addled. He meant Al's brain was scrambled. When Al told his mother, she was furious. She took him out of that She took him out of school and began teaching him at home. Al loved to read. How surprised his teacher would have been to see the difficult books his mother gave to him. Books about history, ancient science. He read them just as fast as he could. One book was a favorite. It was called School Compendium of Natural Experimental Philosophy. It was a science book. It talked about electricity, batteries, electrical toys, and a lot more. It had simple experiments. Al got so excited he started doing experiments all over the house. He used stuff like feathers, beeswax, and chemicals from the drugstore. His bedroom was full of jars and bottles. Finally, his mother sent him to the basement to set up his own lab. Volta's battery. First electric battery stack of copper and zinc discs separated by saltwater soaked cloth. Morse code. 1791 to 1872. Samuel Morse was born in Charlestown, Massachusetts. He was a portrait painter for the first half of his life. Morse was always interested in science, especially electricity. He was 41 years old when he had an idea about sending messages in code through a wire. The idea came to him while on a ship, traveling home from France, where it had taken him a whole month for a letter to reach him from America. The simple instrument he built in 1837 worked the very first time, but it wasn't until 1844 that he could send the first official telegram. Morse tapped out words from the Bible. What hath God wrought? It went from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, Maryland, 34 miles away. It took less than a second to travel through the wire. One part in the book interested Al most of it all. It was about Morse's telegraphic alphabet. Morse was the name of a code. It was used to sending messages over telegraph wires. There were no telephones yet. You couldn't talk to someone far away, but you could send messages that reached them quickly. Samuel Morse made up that code. Instead, using letters and numbers, he used dots and dashes to send messages that became known as telegrams. The railroad played a big part because the telegraph wires carried telegrams were strung on poles along the railroad tracks. An operator in the railroad station could wire ahead if schedules changed or if there was an accident or a delay or some kind. Telegraphy made the trains safer. An operator tapped out a message of dots and dashes with a metal key on a board. The message raced along a wire and electrical pulses to the next station. The dots and dashes were notched or cut into a roll of paper. An operator decoded the message using Morse code and wrote down the message in words. Telegrams were expensive, so mostly business sent them, but people sent them too for news they wanted to get to their families and friends fast, like the birth of a new baby. Now Al couldn't wait to try it. He made a simple telegraph key and he began learning Morse code. He even set up a wire between his house and and a friend's house nearby, and they learned the code. They began sending messages back and forth. Soon Al would go back to work on the railroad. It was there his interest in telegraphy grew much more serious. That was a long chapter. Well, thanks for watching me, guys. This is Owen signing off.